I guess we'll start up. All right, Shockwaves Skullsessions, episode number whatever, right?
I lost track.
I lost track too. What's going on?
A while.
I know. We're doing
It's been a while since we've been together at the Shockwaves Skullsessions studio. Look at this.
Camera right there too, by the way.
Oh, there we
right
go.
Here. Yeah. I know we're looking up there, but on the screen.
Off so I don't.
I know.
Yeah. I want to be all natural.
Yeah.
But no, it's good. It's good to be here.
Yeah, man. Cheers.
Having a couple beers.
Having a beer. Yep.
Talk about things.
Yeah. So, I mean, a lot going on, obviously. Obviously, there hasn't been a Skull Sessions episode for, a couple of weeks now, at least 3 or 4 weeks, but there's a reason why.
Yeah, we're taking a little break, a little hiatus. Of course, Matt is going to continue on doing the aftershocks. And we might pop up, do a Skull Sessions here and there, we were thinking. But as I mentioned on a post on Facebook that or is it called Meta now?
Oh, yeah, Meta. That's right. Yes. Yeah. Whatever. Just call social media.
I just wanted to post out to the people so they are aware, like they don't wonder what's going on. We are going to take a break for a while. I've just been real busy and a couple of new things, particularly a new project. Well, actually a couple projects, but this new one that just came up, a new documentary project that I'm working with Cleopatra on. And I figured I'm not a good person to be multitasking and doing a bunch of stuff. So I figured, look, it's best I take a break because this documentary, which is pretty much confirmed as yet. I just had a meeting with Brian and Tim.
Can you reveal what it is?
Well, it's basically a documentary more on classic rock. It's something that Brian Pereira from the head of Cleopatra had an idea of doing.
Okay.
And he offered me to direct it. And, I thought about it for a while and I had a great time and a very great experience working with him in the past with a Band vs. Brand documentary.
Okay.
And he says he'll offer a bigger budget on this one and it'll be similar in the business, but it'll be mostly about classic rock guitar players. I guess I could reveal it. It's going to be basically about, I'm sure a lot of people have heard stories fairly recently about people that have, guitarists in particular, that have either sold a guitar or lost their guitar in the past, or it was stolen back in the day, maybe 40 years ago, in the case of someone like a Peter Frampton or a Randy Bachman, and it turned up years later, or they found it, and there's a lot of stories about this. Even a story with Joe Perry selling his guitar in 1980 and Slash ended up finding it, over the last few years and ended up giving it back to Joe as a present. So it's an interesting concept about guitars in particular, although we aren't going to limit it to just guitars. But in just doing the research, so many guitarists have gone through this. And it's, for the average person, it might not mean anything, but for people that are, guitar lovers, like real guitar enthusiasts, losing a guitar is like,
oh yeah, man, absolutely.
Especially when you have a rare, 1959 Les Paul or something that's very rare or a custom that was built for you. And
certain guitars you used on certain albums that are classic records and stuff that you have. Absolutely. Yeah.
Everyone from Jimmy Page to a Peter Frampton to a John Lennon to a Paul McCartney. I mean, this is all situations that they've had. And not to say we're going to feature these people in the documentary, but a lot of them I've already got some good contacts because going through the research, so many guitar players, newer and older, everyone from like Zakk Wylde to whatever, they all got great stories about this happening. So again, when Brian brought it up, I thought, this is kind of interesting. I was thinking, well, will this be worthy to do a full documentary? And then after doing research, I found out that, wow, there's a lot of guitar players that have gone through this. Guitarists in particular, we've got other drummers and other things that had stuff stolen back in the day, and they end up finding it on eBay 20 years later, or in some pawn shop that somebody bought, the guitar. So it's a crazy story for a lot of people. And, the thing about it too is this is something that the musicians like to talk about because it's like a kind of a feel-good story for them. It's not a controversial topic in the sense where it might be something they don't want to discuss. But a lot of these people, these guitar players, it's like, wow, man, I found my guitar after 40 years. I want to tell the story. This is a great story. And that's kind of what we found doing research. So I haven't delved full-fledged into it, but it's in the works. And you know, it's something that I'm pretty excited about. And I like working with Cleopatra. You know, I did the Band vs. Brand. I think that was a little bit rushed, to be honest. Purposely, I kind of wanted to get it out because it was a little bit time sensitive, you know, with the whole branding and everything that was going on with the two different bands and all that stuff. And I think I kind of rushed myself to get that.
Well, to get it out before those bands actually broke up or something, right? Yeah, or something.
So, yeah, because there was a lot of topics regarding that. So this one, I'm going to actually, it's a lot more thought out, so to speak. And I'm very proud of Band vs. Brand. It got great reviews and everything.
That was fantastic, man. Yeah.
I just thought it was a bit rushed. I think I could have got, you know, some bigger artists, other artists, and it could have taken more time to do it. This one, we've got plenty of time. I'm going to stretch it out to the NAMM show in June because I'm already lining up interviews for June. So if you out there know of any good stories about guitar players or musicians that have a situation where they had a lost or stolen guitar that they came across years later, hey, let us know, you know, and we'll see about including them in the documentary. But it should be a fun documentary.
Yeah, man, that sounds great.
It's not going to be metal oriented. I mean, obviously there will be a few metal, you know, musicians involved, but it'll be, you know, already we're talking a lot of classic rock, blues, some old blues guys and stuff. So it's going to go around the board. We're also going to try to hit up, you know, jazz and all different aspects. Because, you know, as guitar players, you know, there's a huge realm of, you know, musical genres. That, you know, especially the guitar heroes. You know, from jazz to fusion to, you know, blues and, you know, so yeah, it's going to be a fun project. I'm looking forward to it. So anyway, that is the big news. And that's why we're going to put, Skull Sessions on a hiatus for a bit.
Now, I mean, of course, there'll be I would think, you know, once in a while, if you do have a minute or so, there could be a Skull Sessions that pops up out of nowhere just as a special, right? Possibly.
Sure.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, how we started this, Matt, it was just kind of a free form. It's like, you know, whenever we weren't really pressured to do it on a schedule, and we're going to kind of go back to that. And I think since we hooked up with you know with CMS and all that, I know the network, you know, it's a great thing. I know the network, you know, they have everything kind of scheduled. We do it every Tuesday, and I just don't want to commit to that. So that's why I'm saying that. And what we will do is, you know, if the network's cool with doing it, you know. A special episode once a month or whatever, then we'll do it. I just don't want to commit to something that, you know, down the road at last minute saying, hey, I can't do it, you know. So, and that's why I'm letting all the fans know, because everyone's, hey, dude, what's up with Skull Sessions? I haven't seen an episode in a while. So there you go.
Well, because it was on a hiatus for a while before you brought it back. So I think, well, I mean, not now, but I mean, back, you know, years ago when you were starting to do the documentary. So I think a lot of the fans will be like, a little maybe worried that you're done with it for good, but that's not really what it is. Right?
When I did the Inside Metal stuff, and that was actually a good time. That was when Roadrunner was going through the whole Warner Brothers thing around 2012 and all. So, and you know, and I knew doing the documentaries again. I'm one of these guys. If I do something, I want to concentrate full on. With that, and I don't want to have to. Oh fuck, man! I got to
have to multitask and do anything.
I forgot this Tuesday. I got to post a thing, and then last minute just throw something together. You know, so it's. And I know people knows we've been throwing up a lot of the archives episodes, and we don't want to just keep doing archives, obviously. So we're gonna call it a hiatus.
Well, the other thing too is it's difficult to get weekly to do a Skull Sessions weekly, to get more than one guest on weekly, to get two people. You know, 2+ people to come on, especially in different time zones. I mean, a lot of guys you talk to obviously are in the UK, you know, and I mean the East Coast. So even just the East Coast to the West Coast itself can be difficult. So that's another a roadblock. That's
you brought that up because that is
it is, man.
Thing, especially if I get two or three people and they like love to let's do it. It could take me 2 or 3 weeks to coordinate it because, like you said, you know. A lot of these guys work or they travel or they tour.
It's not easy,
And, you know, someone's in England, someone's on the East Coast, another guy is, you know, somewhere else in Japan, you know, like a Marty Friedman or something. And you have to coordinate the time zones. And, you know, with Skull Sessions, I like to do we like to do it with at least 3 people, 3 guests. So yeah, it could be kind of a pain in the ass to coordinate. So that is another issue rather than doing just straight up interviews.
Yeah.
Setting up a time with a publicist. Okay, 9 o'clock Pacific Coast time.
That's easy peasy. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Well, very cool, man. Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, it's gonna, we're gonna miss doing the Skull Sessions, obviously, and obviously it's a huge part of the CMS network. But obviously, we're glad that you're putting together another great documentary. I mean, like I said, between Band versus Brand, the Inside LA Metal documentaries you've done, as well as the Bay Area Godfathers, which I know that the second part I know. Was
still waiting for that to come.
Yeah.
Is that going to come out on streaming? Everyone's asking me. It's supposed to. We fixed the problem. We had a bit of. I mean, that's the problem with this. With these QC issues, quality control, especially with iTunes and Amazon now too. They're all getting very strict about. It was a stupid thing with mono and stereo on a couple of the tracks we had to get fixed and. I had to go through that. It was a pain in the ass, but we got it fixed. We resubmitted it, and now it's just a matter of you have to stick with their release schedules or whatever. So who knows? Hopefully, too. But they are both out on DVD, and there you go. Yeah. Part 1 is streaming, so hopefully we'll get
awesome. Yeah, absolutely, man. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's been fun, man, for the last 2.5 years doing this since you brought it back. Back in 2019. I can't believe it's been 2.5. Yeah, 2019. Yes, spring. I think it was April, I believe, or March and April was when we started it. And so it's been a lot of fun. Like I said, hopefully we'll get a couple episodes for everybody while Bob's doing his doing the documentary.
Sure.
When he does have a minute or so, if he has a little downtime.
Well, maybe get one of the people from the film on here too.
Sure, absolutely, yeah, yeah. And that is such a great, I think, a cool. Topic. It's very different. It's unique.
Like, could this work for a full documentary? And then just talk. And there's interesting stories, like things that have got stolen, from gigs years ago that got pawned off, that ended up going through, 10 different hands of different people not knowing the value of it, and then somebody seeing it for like, a guitar that's worth, $100,000, they see it, going for like $300 on eBay or something, I mean, that's just an example, but there's been stuff like that where people don't know the value, and then they realize, hey, that's so-and-so's guitar.
Yeah, it's so like, I mean, how did they even find out about that? How do they know?
They know. I mean, people know their guitar like they know their children, and now I think there are certain, that's another thing we're going to get into is, tracking of the guitars. So we're going to talk to some guitar companies, and I think, like Gibson and others, I think a lot of them are now actually having, without, apart from like a serial number or something to show what, the guitar, or usually you could tell what guitar, if it's an original, obviously, if it's, and I'm not a guitar player. I don't really follow this stuff, but people know if, what series it is, the date it was, if it's, part of the original, now, I mean, I don't know if you know about it yet, because like I said, you haven't interviewed a lot of these guys, but I mean, are they actively looking for them? Is when they found them? Was it something like where it was like a lot of friends, a lot of people, like they know a lot of friends. It's like in the case of Randy Bachman, a friend of his said, dude, there's a guy in Tokyo that's been playing your guitar like on YouTube.
That's freaking crazy. I don't even know. It's nuts.
Somewhere. He had no idea. Wow. He goes, I'm pretty sure it's your old guitar.
That's unbelievable.
From, the Guess Who days, we're talking 50 years ago. Or he played it on the first Bachman Turner Overdrive album, which was,
it's like what, 70s? Yeah, 72, 3.
I mean, that was before Taking Care of Business. So I think there's actually videos of him playing from their first guitar sessions, and then boom, it got stolen or whatever. And of course, the guy from Japan just got it secondhand from, which is kind of funny because BTO had a song called Secondhand about a secondhand guitar. But anyway, the guy from was playing. They found it, and they reunited with a guy in Japan, and it was his original guitar. So it's usually stories like that. People find it. A friend of the artist will see it somewhere and go, man, that looks just like, and they figure that, wow.
That's amazing, man. I mean, because not for nothing with guitars, I mean, how? I mean, unless it has like a unique mark on it or something, it's like, how would you know that that's someone's guitar?
Well, I think a lot of some of the newer, real expensive guitars now being manufactured, they're putting some kind of a tracking device.
Oh, they are, okay. But even that, even if you saw it on YouTube, I mean, how do you know that that's somebody's guitar?
You know what? There's certain markings on it.
Yeah.
You know, there's certain a lot of people have like little initials. Like Zach Wilde had initial in his guitars.
Now, do you know the people who have obviously bought these guitars? They probably did they have any idea that this was? Say, for instance, Zach Wilde, did they know when they bought it?
Some of them. Well, that's what we'll find out in the documentary.
That's what we'll find out, right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Interview not only the guitarists, but the people that ended up buying the guitar, and if they had any idea. Now, there are a lot of guitar aficionados and collectors that know.
Sure.
They might not know it's, this is Peter Frampton's old guitar, but they might say, hey, this is a
specific unique model that's there only a few people had or something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
They know that much about it. And once they narrow it down, they know, well, who was playing these guitars back in the day.
Okay.
So sometimes they'll figure it out.
Yeah.
This could have been Frampton's guitar.
Wow.
And Frampton had an interesting story where I think in 80 or something, and this was the guitar he played in Humble Pie on the Rockin' the Fillmore performance album. And it was in all his equipment was in a plane that crashed, and the plane exploded.
Get out of here!
Somehow
that guitar survived it. Get out!
That's what I'm saying. There's some crazy. Yeah. When I did the research and looked into these stories, it's like, holy shit! It's not just like, well, someone lost or sold the guitar, and then they ended up finding it years later. There's some crazy stories. Like this guitar was somehow salvaged in the wreck. And this happened, like, I think it was like somewhere in like South America or something. Somebody grabbed that guitar and ended up maybe selling it cheap, and it just went the rounds until somebody realized, hey, that's a 59 Les Paul or whatever. That was, and they figured out that was Peter Frampton's old guitar. And Frampton thought, the guitar, he had no clue. He goes, everything's, they probably had insurance for their stuff. It was like, everything's a loss, who cares? And then 20, 30, 40 years later, wherever he found it, it was like, we're really hoping to interview Peter on this. But it's like they found out that was Peter's actual guitar. So it's a crazy story. So
yeah, I mean, I'm excited to see this once it's done, because it
should be fun.
It's definitely, like I said, it's a very different, interesting topic. You know what I mean? It's not just about advanced history or something. It's completely something different. That's it's really unique. So yeah, I mean, it sounds like it's going to be fun.
These guys we've got.
I'm sure you got a whole list of some big names you're going to be doing with. So
some confirmed already, and again, these guys are great storytellers as well. The thing I love about working with experienced people in the music business, classic rock people that have doing this for 30, 40, 50 years, they got this great personality. They're funny. They know how to tell stories, and no offense to a lot of these new musicians, but a lot of the new guys don't, they don't know.
And their history isn't, I know, there's no history. And even the history isn't that kind of history.
Yeah.
As
interesting as it might be, me talking about it, once these guys tell the story, it's like, wow, this is pretty crazy.
Pretty cool, yeah.
It should be good. I'm looking forward to this, because I have no idea how this will turn out, but I'm thinking it's going to be a really good one.
Yeah, and like I said, it's different than just doing, like you said, historic, documentaries. This is obviously a different thing for you. And like you said, Long Lines of Band versus Brand in terms of doing something outside the box like that.
Brian again thought this up, and I appreciate that he thought of me to direct it, and we're going to go for it. I think it's going to be a fun, entertaining documentary. I mean, it might sound boring with me talking about it now, but from what we've got lined up and the stories I've talked about so far, it's like, wow, this is going to be, and like I said, when I first heard about it, it's like, I don't know, is this going to be documentary worthy for a full documentary? But then hearing some of these stories and how this came across, it's like, wow, this is going to be fun.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Excellent. Yeah. Fantastic.
All right. So what about you, man? What's going on?
Just to say, obviously we're continuing to do aftershocks, although we've switched some things up a bit. We're doing a thing called Aftershocks Tremors, which is focusing.
Which you've done before, which I dig. You do it all.
Yeah. Well, last year we did it live. We had the live thing going on, you know, through the StreamYard and through the social media sites. But what we're doing now, obviously, we've got the heavy metal television. So we're doing Aftershocks Tremors. It's kind of twofold now. So we've got it focuses on a newer band, you know, not a band that's been around for a while. There's a lot of great music that's out there. I know a lot of people might not think there is, but there is. So we're trying to highlight some of the newer bands. That's what Aftershocks Tremors is doing. And Chris is also, obviously, we're still doing it together, but he's doing CMS Music, which is interviews with a lot of the 80s artists. Okay, because when we started Aftershocks, that was the goal, was to, because obviously he did, you know, classic metal show, and I was doing Skull Sessions with you. Focuses mostly on 70s and 80s artists. So we wanted to bring some of the, you know, from the 90s and above, those artists, you know, bring them into the fold. So that's why we started Aftershocks. But when we started doing it, we just kind of, you know, with the pandemic hitting, it was so much opportunity. These guys had time to sit around and talk.
Of course,
so we just took advantage of it, and we decided to talk to basically whoever wanted to come on. If they were good musicians, had a good history, and wanted to come on, we did it. A lot of them wound up being, you know, 80s artists. And we realized we had to get back to, you know, to square one, what we started it for.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which was to, like I said, highlight bands outside of those eras. And so, yeah, so we're doing that. And then we also have now weekly, along with Tremors, not just an interview, but we're doing a discussion between me and Chris. And we're going to invite other people on. Like, it's going to be more for, you know, obviously, yeah, me and him to talk some topics, you know, what's going on with the music business today, some historic stuff, you know, whatever it may be. But we're also going to be having, like, you know, we're going to get other podcasters on. We're going to get some maybe journalists on, some of the people that have been in the business, and talk about certain topics. So it's going to be like sort of like a, you know, like an hour sort of talk show thing each week. And then we'll, on Heavy Metal Television, we'll team it up with a newer, a Tremors new artist, or a you know, one of those breaking or up and coming band kind of artists that are out there, you know, in all the different genres. But, you know, there is a lot of good music out there right now. I know people don't think there is. And in every kind of genre, whether it's, I mean, we know a bunch of even traditional heavy metal bands. It's new wave of traditional heavy metal. A lot of great bands that are out. I mean, there's this one I played for you recently, Dr. Smoke.
They were killer.
Really good. So there are these bands out there, man. So it's just what we're trying to, yeah.
I was just saying, thanks to you and your podcast pushing that stuff, I wouldn't have heard about a lot of these bands. And because I've just been, you know, people know I'm old school, and I love hearing about new bands, but there's not a lot of I'm not one of these social media guys, YouTube guys that go on. Like, you know, I was just talking to people in LA, and they all, you know, I know a friend of mine, photographer, went to Greta Van Fleet. He said, they did 2 nights sold out at Greek Theater.
Wow.
Yeah. Are they that big? And I'm thinking
they've become the well, especially they've definitely resonated with a lot of like guys your age and from your, you know,
but he said
from your era,
a lot of young girls.
Oh, young kids and girls, absolutely. Dirty Honeys and stuff, yeah.
On the you know, all the late night TV shows and all that. But I'm thinking, well, how do people, you know, really get? But it's all social media, and that's something I'm not.
True.
You know,
yeah. I mean, there's a lot of those bands. You got them. You got Dirty Honey. I mean, there is a bunch. I mean, there's more than people think.
You saw them recently,
you know,
right?
Dirty Honey with Black Crows. Yeah, they were great. I mean, Dirty Honey is definitely a band that if you like that 80s, you know, sort of the blues rock stuff, you know, along the lines of an Aerosmith, Guns N' Roses, and the Sunset Strip sort of tinge 70s. That in that realm, Dirty Honey is right up your alley. Yeah, I think that's a great band.
Well, it's cool.
Yeah.
Like, you know, the Aftershocks is really pushing the new bands, and it's good to see podcasts doing that. And of course, Poppet's Corner, Tanner Poppet. That's the thing that leans more toward the death metal stuff, but a lot more underground stuff.
Yeah,
underground.
Yep.
But it's cool. You know, it's good to get those bands exposure, because there's not, as far as I know, apart from, you know, them posting stuff on YouTube and other avenues, not a lot of. I mean, these podcasts tend to do the same old kind of, you know,
that's
hardcore.
That's it.
Lamb of God and all these
exactly
bands.
Same people,
bands, but the same bands. Like, well, these bands aren't underground anymore.
Exactly.
Not, you know, it's like time to move on and, like, you know, give these newer bands some props.
Well, that's the thing. It's like, you know, I mean, we all know our old heroes are starting to, you know, they're starting to kind of, you know, they're getting too old now to be touring. Yeah. I mean, we're not going to see a lot of, you know, the classic bands playing for too much longer. You know, we've heard this for so long now, but you still don't see anybody doing anything about it in terms of, you know, what's next? You know, everyone's like, oh, worried. And I think everyone's just so worried about what's happening in the future that they're going out and rushing out to see all these bands now while they can. But at the same time, they're not looking for new bands. They're not, you know, or even like you said, the podcasts aren't focusing on them. Everybody wants to go and interview Dee Snider or whoever's coming out next with a new record and a new tour. But it's like, I mean, there's like 20 podcasts you can see an interview for Dee Snider or for, I mean, whoever it is. So our thing is just like, look, we've got to, you got to replenish these bands. I mean, it's got to happen.
You want to get the future of metal music going, you got to promote the new talent out there. You know?
Exactly. That's why we love focus on the Void Vaders and the, you know, like you said, the Dirty Honeys and stuff. I mean, there are a lot of great bands out there. Like I said, it's just because the music business has changed so much. There's just not the typical avenues and ways that they can get heard and discovered unless it's fed to everybody via, you know, a playlist on Spotify or YouTube or whatever. So, I mean, the good thing now, too, we have on Aftershocks and the podcast is when you go on it, you can now hear before the interview and after the interview, we've got clips, and even I think some of them have the full song on there. Basically, you can hear a sample or a taste of the band's music. Yeah. So you're not like, oh, who's this band? I'm not going to, and I get it. You know, who wants to listen to a half-hour interview of a band you don't know? Right. But if you hear a little, you know, 30-second to a minute clip before the interview, maybe hear a song afterwards, you'd be more willing, I think, and open-minded to actually give it a chance and listen to an interview or give another band a chance. So, you know, like we were saying, I mean, even a guy like Blasco, and we were talking about him recently, he's got this thing with Ripple. He's like an A&R guy now, you know, Ripple. Obviously, Blasco is the bassist from Ozzy. I mean, he's been signing some really great bands, young bands. So it's like, there is, I mean, some of the scenes out there, you got Austin, Texas, got a great scene. North Carolina, great scene. So, yes, we're not going to see in the mainstream, you know, we don't have MTV, so we're not going to see another Seattle come around. But there are those geographical regions that have these things that are burgeoning. I mean, they are.
A big live music town.
Absolutely.
Town. Same with Raleigh.
Yep, exactly.
You got that. They cater to the live music.
Absolutely.
And that's really what it comes down to, because that's where the bands can promote the live music.
Exactly.
And it's, it's cool that you're doing that. I did that.
Yeah, it's just, you know, like I said, it's fun. It's you know, it's like I said, and what's great is we don't just do that. Obviously, like I said, but CMS Music has got the old school bands, you know, that obviously now we'll have to definitely do now that Skull Sessions isn't going to be around. So we definitely got to fill that void, you know. So, you know, like I said, and then Tanner's got really what I like about Popwit's Corner, okay, whether you like those bands or not, whether, you know, the death metal stuff and it's not just death metal. I mean, he's obviously interviewed Frank Marino. He's done some really great interviews, but he's really focused on the community thing, the whole metal communal thing.
Well, he's a purist, which I dig. He's a definite metal purist.
Oh yeah,
really. And there's not many of them around anymore, especially at his age.
That's his age, man. I mean, he knows. I mean, Tanner could tell you anything from, you know, the early 70s up until now. He's a very unique individual of music. I hope everyone gives him a chance, his podcast a chance. But yeah, he did this thing recently down in San Diego. This is a San Diego swap meet. You know,
Void Vader and a few other.
Well, yeah, I mean, he basically just went. I guess there's a San Diego swap meet, you know, down there, a metal swap meet. And so he just set up tent down there and you know, did some interviews with people there. I mean, once again, going to these functions and going live in these places, setting it up, getting people who are in the community to come, get them on to talk about, you know, whether it's their band, whether they have a label, a record store, whatever it may be, just to sort of keep that the flame going. You know what I mean? I mean, the flame's been kind of obviously, you know, dipping off for the last decade or two. You know what I mean? Little by little. It's to keep that thing at least burning and keep it, you know, from becoming just a bunch of embers and you know, flaming out. So, you know, I give Tanner a lot of credit for focusing in that. You know, that's something it's kind of unique and different. It's not just interviews with bands, you know. So it's you know, which I think is important. You know,
well, that's what I think is cool with the podcast, because like you mentioned, Spotify and I've heard it got turned on to a lot of new music through Spotify.
Absolutely.
Which is good, but it's kind of a faceless. You hear the band, you name. You know, back in the day, you get a record, you could read all about the band, you could see everything. You put, you know, Spotify, you don't know anything. What album is this? What year did it come out? What is it? Who is this band? Where are they from? Where is this? By listening to the podcast, you get the interview.
It's fed to you, yes.
Exactly. So they could give you a little bit of history. Oh, this is about. Oh, they're from New Jersey. Oh, they've done this. Oh, they toured with so and so.
Absolutely.
So that's a good, and that's what that's what the people on the internet are missing nowadays. They hear of the band, it's just kind of, again, it's like background music.
Yeah.
They don't know anything about the band. It's like, oh yeah, I heard this one band, it was pretty cool. I can't remember.
Yeah, good point. You're right. They don't know anything about them.
I saw it on Spotify. I'll try to find it again. It just popped up on my playlist,
Yeah.
And that's what it comes and goes. And
well, then it's quickly forgotten just as much as it's been discovered.
You don't have the press and the magazines and the radio, local radio stations pushing these local bands, so it is really up to the podcast. It's a good thing that you guys are pushing these bands and talking and giving them a chance to tell their story.
Yeah, whether
they have a good story or not. A lot of these bands are new; they don't have much of a story, but at least they could, you get some kind of a visual with what the band is about.
Sure, absolutely.
Rather than just some name that comes and goes on a playlist.
It's unique. Like, for instance, I interviewed this band called the Heroine. They're out of San Antonio, Texas. And I hadn't heard of them until I got, obviously something sent to me from one of the publicists, and I liked their music. And I looked into the history, and this band's been around for a while. They had a thing where it was at the Whiskey A Go-Go in L.A. It was something with Motley Crue, and it was just some sort of contest or something, and they got selected to come out for it. And because of it, they were there. This was around 2010 or 11, and they wound up actually started working with Universal. They saw them, signed them, but they didn't know what to do with them. And I think in the end, they just kind of dropped them because they didn't know what to do with them. But they had a great energy. I guess Tommy Lee was like, oh, these guys kick ass. So, I mean,
Tommy Lee DJing?
Hopefully not, man. Hopefully it was more of the old Motley Crue Tommy Lee, not the Methods of Mayhem Tommy Lee. But I mean, the bottom line is that this band actually has some history. They got endorsements. They actually, like I said, they got signed by Universal at the time. So, I mean, nothing came of it because of like they said. I mean, Universal had no idea what to do with them, and I could see why. They're musically, they're kind of all over the place.
Labels these days.
That's the thing. They're not
a niche
because they're not in tune with what's going on. The labels, what I mean, because they're just seeing something live one time. Oh, these guys look good. The crowd went a little wild. Yeah. All right, let's go ahead and sign them.
Or they got 2 million hits on their.
Oh yeah, that too, exactly. Or they go by the hits, and sometimes those hits could be like maybe a funny video, not necessarily the music itself. And everyone just liked the video, but they're signing them based off, Twitter, likes and all this crap, So yeah, exactly. It's.
Well, that was a cool thing. Again, not to bring up my age, but the old school thing about the 70s bands is you could be a band like a Thin Lizzy. It could have no direction as far as, we're metal, we'll do some kind of folk songs, we'll do a blues song, we'll do a kind of jazzy, Steely Dan-ish kind of song, we'll do this, and they could put it all on a record. Same with a band like Nazareth or Queen. All these bands, or Zeppelin. You gotta listen to Physical Graffiti. I think one of the greatest albums ever. It's a double album. Every song on that album is completely different from every other song. A record company would have no idea what to do with a band like Led Zeppelin nowadays.
No,
they came up with that. It's like, what the fuck is this? They want that knit, and that's the problem with the new music nowadays, which I think is really. And this has been happening. I think it started since the 80s with a corporate model of, okay, this is metal, all the genres and all the stuff.
Well, they found the formulas, and they just follow the formula.
Formulas.
Yeah.
Before there was, and I remember talking to Brian Downey from Thin Lizzy and other people, Manny Charlton and I said, how was it? Would you have pressure from the label? He goes, no, we sold enough albums where they let us in the studio. They let us do whatever the fuck we wanted to do. We could experiment.
They get drunk and fucked up, whatever they wanted to do.
That doesn't exist these days, which is a shame, especially with these three.
Well, there's no artist development. We talked about a lot of this stuff. Exactly.
You can find a band that is, this direction and this stuff, but you're not going to get that kind of wide range of diversity of a Thin Lizzy album or even a Judas Priest album back in the 70s. How different some of those songs were, But it was, again, I'm talking 40 years ago here, but. Even
there's a lot more money in the industry back then too, is what it is. A lot of money to disposable income just to throw away.
Safe, and the labels, they even though they have no idea about music these days, it's all about marketing. They just want to know how can we market this band, and what audience can we market this band to?
Well, also, how can they control the bands? I mean, like, that's why there's so many solo artists and everything, because it's all about the control, right? The least people you have involved on the contracts, you could just get hired guns.
Well,
as long as you got one person you control,
why do you think DJs and rap artists?
Exactly, they're huge because
you get a DJ, you deal with one person who has a computer.
Yep,
that's it. You deal with a band, you deal with 5 different personalities.
You got to keep revolving if they get into.
This guy's got a drug problem.
Exactly.
This guy's got a problem where he's got a wife and kids. He doesn't want to tour. This guy's got that. Labels don't want to deal with that.
Don't want to deal with that.
They want to deal with simple, or they want to deal with an artist where they can, like you said, have session guys play or whatever. That's why. I mean, that's my opinion. Why rap music and hip hop and DJs, whatever you want to call it, trance, whatever, is such a big thing, because you're dealing with one artist. You don't have to deal with. And they want creative control.
Well, think about that too. With the rap artists, there's also the socioeconomic part of that, right? A lot of these artists in rap and hip hop and everything, and DJs, they're from, they're not from well-to-do families. They grew up poor. And so they're the easiest ones to go, hey, we'll give you a record contract. We can,
360
boom,
deal. Where
bam, they'll sign it. They'll sign it in a second. I mean, they have nothing to lose. And then they control them. So that's what it's all about, the control.
Bands or people that know about the business will go, hey, I'm not signing away my publishing, my merchandising, my touring. Why are you getting my touring?
Exactly.
That's me doing the work.
And of course, they don't realize it later on until they start getting big and they realize, oh, crap.
They realize it. They just don't. I think the kids today, they know it, but one thing on their mind is fame.
Fame and social media. I mean, everything. Exactly.
And it shows with a lot of the artists. So,
and that's why the music sucks. And that's why just the music in general these days. I mean, I guess even though we're talking about how there's a lot of great bands out there.
Well, I think a lot of these great bands are doing stuff
independently. Absolutely.
And a lot of these independent labels out for hard rock and metal, they're bigger than the major labels. They're doing, like you say, Universal signs this band. They don't know what the fuck to do with them. You sign with a label, even though, Nuclear Blast is almost considered a major now when it comes to, the bands they handle, from the Slayers and the Anthraxes to the whatevers. They are, they'll let the band kind of do their thing. I don't know if those labels are doing the 360 deals. I don't think so.
I don't think so. Yeah,
maybe
it's more. I think that smaller labels is more like looks we'll print up, say, 1,000 vinyl records. You get 300 like Ripple.
Labels, they will allow, and that's where the future of hard rock and metal is, and those are the people that are going to keep it alive. So kudos to these labels and to these people that are keeping that, music.
Well, I think Ripple, which is right here in the Bay Area, that's I think a great, they're in San Ramon here. I think that's a great label, and one of the reasons that, I mean, you don't have to even ask any of the fans. The bands that are on that label love. I mean, what band do you know loves their label? They usually can't stand their label, and the label owners, they glow. I mean, I was interested. I interviewed this band called High Desert Queen that just got put out. It was one of Blasco's bands on Ripple. And the guy was saying that, there's all these Ripple fests. There's one here. I know that I believe that they put it together, but I didn't realize this. There's one in Europe. There's one in Texas, but they're all put together by the bands. The label's not doing it. The bands are saying, can we put together a Ripple fest? And so this guy, Todd Severin's his name from Ripple. I mean, whatever he's doing, I mean, that's the future of music right there in labels, because bands love being on this label. I mean, what label do you know loves being? I mean, bands love being on it.
They always have something to complain about.
Oh, of course. And so the fact that, so he's doing something right.
Well, I think the fact that Blasco is a musician too, so he knows. And that's a problem with all these new labels. Well, I don't even call them labels now. They're basically tech companies that run the music business.
Okay, yeah, it's
a lot of, and these tech people are basically the major label people. They're tech people that get on Spotify, they get on this, they get it. It's all about social. I think the old school guys, like, again, Blasco, not only was he a musician with Ozzy and of course Rob Zombie and blah blah blah. He had his Mercenary Management where he signed bands. So he's been in the business for a while as more of an artist point of view. So people like that, the old school guys, I think they know better, and they'll give the artist a freedom because they know that's what important for an artist to grow, is to have them do what they want to do.
No, that's a good point. Like you said, if you have someone like Blasco working with you, he's got the credibility. You know, I mean, no, someone like Blasco, if you
but
get
not like we're kissing Blasco's ass.
no, we're just talking in general.
That was true about people like that.
But having that credibility, and you go, whoa, I got Blasco liked my band and wants to sign me on that label on Ripple. Yeah, I mean, that's got to make you feel good. And like you said, he can relate with the artist because he's an artist himself.
That's important. And
that's a good point. Yeah,
really what I think is missing in these days is now it's marketing people that run these or work at these labels and work. It's all about the tech side of it and not about the music side of it. You know, it's all about
it's a good point.
Commercial, financial, because it's all corporate now. It's all corporate entities, Universal. I mean, back in the day, even in the early 80s, all these, you know, Geffen was considered like an independent.
Okay.
In a way, A&M was like an independent.
It wasn't a full-blown major.
Arista was, you know, all these labels were, you know,
True.
Sony, which were CBS, Columbia, RCA, and Warner Brothers. All these other smaller labels were like little independent.
And they're the ones that broke a lot of those bands. Absolutely.
Yeah. But Chrysalis was independent.
Chrysalis,
But I mean, they were major labels in a sense, but they were very independent. They weren't part of. But and then it became corporate when all these Seagrams and all these major companies
got involved.
Companies. And it wasn't about the music.
Once all mergers started,
it was about the numbers.
Yeah.
It was about the sales figures. It wasn't about, oh, these guys are talented. These are guys are going. It's like, who gives a fuck?
Yeah.
How much could they sell? How much money could we make?
Well, and that's what was great because the independent labels back then were sort of like the farm system. You know, it was the farm teams. You know, they would look to them to see, okay, what's coming up? What's good? I mean, like a label like, what do you call it up in Seattle there?
SST?
No, I mean, Sub Pop. You know what I mean? I mean, think about what, I mean, all those major labels did was just look at, okay, well, where's something happening? And they look, see what those independents were doing, see what bands were doing well on that. Okay, go ahead and just, I mean, they didn't have to go out and do all the grunt work. And that's why they can't do the grunt. They don't know what to do because they're not in tune with what's going on.
All they have to do now is go on the computer, go to their fucking Twitter and their YouTube pages, see how many fucking views.
Well, and the thing about that, though, is like a lot of those stuff, it's all bought and paid for. Those likes, you know, those follows, everything is all bought from.
See through that though now. Some of them they can see through if they're.
Well, if you do enough due diligence, if you actually take the time to look into it. You know,
some of these people do have a lot of. They have a huge social media network of friends.
Yeah,
it's just. But these are guys that are on their computer and their phones 24/7, and that's what the music business is nowadays. It's not about.
It's on the phone.
The grunt work, going out promoting your band, flyering, going out to physical locations.
I know.
It's all about being in front of your phone.
So I put stuff on.
And I know people go, "Oh, dude, you're just old. You don't know." Hey, that's fine. I'm just saying that's the way it is.
No, but it does take away a lot of the pizzazz to it and a lot of the mystique of trying to build.
Kind of,
exactly. I'm going to try to have to build up relationships with other bands and everying. Absolutely.
Oh, I'm friends with this guy. Just because you're friends with them on Facebook.
Doesn't mean you're friends with him. Exactly. I know.
Oh, he emailed me. Well, it was probably his administrator that emailed you. But if it makes you feel better, okay. He emailed you.
Yeah. Well, and I think that is the challenge. I mean, listen, even us doing the CMS network, you know, the challenge is really having such a not just even a little bit of a presence, but a big time presence on social media. You know, it's tough for like older guys like ourselves, you know, I mean, to figure out how to do that because it is tough. I mean, it takes time. You have to, like we were talking about, you know, you've literally got to put time away to sit there and say, all right, you know, I'm going to take an hour out of the one day of a week, say, and post things, or a day. Say, I'm going to sit here for an hour each day and just focus on social media. I'm not just because the thing about social media is it's not about posting stuff. It's actually about going to other people's pages and posts, making comments, having conversation on these comments. I mean, we don't want to do that shit. You know what I mean? But it's almost one of those things where you kind of have to. The bands who are taking off, and the bands who are really building up a nice underground loyal following are doing it. And it takes time. It's just like, what's like anything, right? It's you can't be lazy. Your music's not just going to speak for itself anymore.
The key thing about nowadays about signing a band isn't really signing a band that's great musically.
No,
incredible, doing something different. It's about signing a band that has a social media presence.
Absolutely.
Where the guys in the band are going to go gung-ho on their social media pages. They're going to post every day.
I remember
because that's what it comes down to, sales. And it's not even, it's not sales now. Sales is You go out to a record store, you buy a record, that's a sale to me. Nowadays, a sale
not even
is
close to that. Yeah,
a view on Facebook, or a view on YouTube, or a listen on Spotify.
So it's streams, all the streaming on, yeah.
And so that's what sales relates to nowadays. And that's what they want, are bands that are active on social media. So they don't necessarily have to be good or really different. They just got to be socially active.
Yeah, well, I think one of the best examples of a band who I think that really, you know, did it well in the early goings of MySpace was I mean, I'm not a fan of the band, but Five Finger Death Punch. You know, they really were pushing hardcore with this MySpace. Remember the whole Metal Sinaz?
Were they around during MySpace?
Yeah, absolutely. That's when I first heard of them, and that's when I started realizing this name was everywhere. And then, like I said, remember you had the personalities on. You had the Metal Sinaz. Was that her name? Metal Sinaz, and she was always, you know, pumping them. Yeah. And you know, they really
had some money behind them.
Yeah, they did. Of course, yes, they did.
I remember going to one of those Family Value tours, and I was invited from a good friend of mine backstage for one of the bands that did the second stages and all that. Five Finger Death Punch was headlining the second stage, and they're, you know, a lot of these other bands had like vans and
they had a big huge bus. I know,
the most
beautiful bus. That's exactly it.
Better than any. I'm going, how is this band able to?
Well, what did they call? It wasn't like they were, you know,
they had sponsored from Red Bull and all this stuff
out of nowhere.
With, I think, HK Management or
was it okay? Like you said,
good for them. It
reminded me of like a Lincoln Park was like that too.
Yeah,
they ascended so quickly.
Yeah, they definitely had some corporate,
of course,
money behind
some corporate muscle behind them. Absolutely,
yeah. Which got them to the point where they are.
But I think what they did though is they really honed in on social media when it first came out. And that's why they started making such a name of themselves through MySpace. You know what I mean? Because they put so much money and you know, I mean, emphasis into it. When back then, I don't think people realized that that's where the future was going with this kind of stuff.
There was another big MySpace thing that I still don't know anything about this band. Are they a Christian band or are they a metal band? Skillet.
Oh, Skillet. Yeah. They're a Christian band. They're a Christian band. Yes.
But I just heard about it. I didn't realize how I see them on festivals and then like way up on.
They've been around for a long time. They were around the whole scene with the Creed scene.
But they were smart by doing a podcast early on, and the podcast was huge. It was always like on iTunes. It was like a podcast.
Well, you remember that in the late '90s and the early 2000s. Remember that was that whole Christian thing. It was POD was involved. You had Hinder, Creed, Skillet. Yeah, there was that circle where there was Living Sacrifice. You know, yeah, exactly. I mean, not as blatant as Stryper. Right. It was more like it was more of a positive whatever, but. Yes, they were all very Christian, you know, in their daily, I guess, personal lives. Even though they didn't really probably promote it as much as someone like a Stryper, who, you know, they didn't have the Bible verses and everything out there like that. Yeah, exactly. Throwing the Bibles to the audience. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, it is interesting though. But I think just like I said, the bands who I think did really well in the mid 2000s, late 2000s, really knew how to hone in. They saw that social media was the way going forward.
That was the thing. They kind of had the foresight, I think.
They did, yeah.
And not many people give enough credit to MySpace, but MySpace really
was the one I loved it, man, when it started out.
In fact, I remember how we met.
That's you pretty much knew that. I built the Skullsessions MySpace. Exactly. Yeah.
I remember that the Skullsessions MySpace. Matt, dude, I don't know.
You're like, hey, dude, you know how to work?
I'll build a page for you. Don't you worry.
Yeah.
Because it was all about building the page.
The page.
It looked cool.
Well, it was like your own website. It was great. As you clicked on it, you'd have 3 or 4 songs that would pop up.
But it was all about music. You could have the music
that was it was perfect for, yeah.
And again, it's funny how MySpace. I mean, it just shows you about the business, how something could be. People don't realize how big MySpace was. Everyone was huge. And then just took as soon as Facebook came in and had the money and the power.
Yep.
Boom. It just totally.
Well, it was also because when you would go onto your page, it was very easy to get all the spam on there.
Yeah.
And you couldn't get rid of it.
And it took forever to load.
Exactly, and that's what it was. And I mean, I never understood why Facebook became the music thing because. You know, I mean, you've got Bandcamp out there right now, but not a lot of people really use it for that, even though they probably should, because it is as close to as a MySpace as there is, and you can buy products, everything like that. But
it's a great site.
But yeah, I never understood because the Facebook, you know, format for it, I thought was it's horrible. It's not really meant for music.
No, it's not.
You know, I think it's terrible. So that's what surprises me that really everyone's just. I mean, they stay on there because that's where the population is. That's where people are.
Facebook is you could just post the links, the YouTube link.
True. Yeah.
Now you could just go to the video. In the MySpace days, even YouTube, they were having issues with music licensing.
Yes, yeah.
So you couldn't.
It was still too early.
I remember even a lot of the MySpace. I remember Motley Crue made a big stink, and all these other bands. You know, MySpace pages were having. You know, when you go to their page, they'll be playing a Motley Crue song.
Exactly, pop up.
And they'd be pissed off and like they would ban.
Because of the copyright stuff too, right? Yeah.
And then the fans are going, dude, I'm just promoting your music. I'm a Motley Crue fan.
Yeah.
And now that's the norm to do.
Yeah.
But back then, of course, it was still, you know, it was like.
It was in that area where no one knew really what it was and how it was going to go.
So it's just premature to that.
It was, yes. Exactly.
We could get into a whole thing about that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
We're supposed to only do about 20 minutes.
Yeah, it never works that way, does it? especially when we're drinking, you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's good to see you, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you know, we've got I got a little bit left here. I can cheers with you. I got a little leftover.
Talking metal toast.
There we go.
You, Mark
there we go.
He's a good dude.
But anyway, once again, it's great that the last 2.5 years have been a lot of fun. Like I said, it's not going to be weekly anymore with the Skull Sessions, but you know, I'm hoping we can do, once in a while. We'll definitely get you on the Tremors because that's something that me and Chris are going to do. And obviously, if you want to see Bob and hear Bob, he will be on some Tremors. We're definitely going to be inviting you on. We expect you to come
Everyone
on.
wants to see
so, of course, who doesn't want to see this guy?
How can you not want to see this?
Look at that. The Armenian maven of metal. Who doesn't want to see this guy?
No, I like the fact that we're doing this together. It beats like me in my room.
Sure, doing it with the StreamYard. Yeah.
And, you know, I mean, it's cool.
The Zoom thing or whatever. Yeah, exactly.
It's good to hang out with you.
In person, exactly.
Hang out, have a couple beers and just bullshit. You know,
absolutely.
So that's what we had no agenda on this podcast. We just said, "Hey, just come in, talk about that. We're going to take a break. Just bullshit." You know? Yeah,
absolutely. It's fun. It's fun that way. But yeah, absolutely. So anything else you want to talk about before we wrap it up?
You know, it's good that thing. You know, there's some good shows happening again. You know, Armored Saints coming into town with Black Label. December
and Prong too. Don't forget Prong.
Oh, don't forget, Prong.
Forget those guys. That's one of my favorite bands. So yeah.
Is it? Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You know, and I always say this. I think Prong is the band as far as we don't call them new metal or hardcore or whatever. New York. I think they are the epitome of that. The band that starts snap your fingers, snap your neck. If I was to pick a song, that is the perfect fucking song. Production-wise, Terry Date. That was just before the Pantera, I believe. The Cowboys from
it was the same. It was right before Far Beyond Driven. It's 1994 that came out. Oh, 93. Sorry.
Was it that late?
Cleansing came out late 93. Yes.
Okay. See, I'm all for it.
And 94, I believe, was when Far Beyond Driven came out.
Just the product, everything about that song, the way it was produced, everything is just perfect. The sound of the grinding, it's just like, man, that is the perfect fucking song.
Yeah. No, it's probably
not to say there are others. I mean, their other songs were good, but that song just.
Well, it's a reason why it's their biggest song. Yeah. You know, there's a reason for that.
Mostly, I usually hate the hit songs, but that song. The reason I'm saying this, I listened to it on the way up here today. And
oh, really? Okay.
God damn, this is a. Yeah. I mean, because I was really concentrating on everything about the song is just perfect.
It's a great album. I mean, the whole album is fantastic. But
I don't mean to forget about.
Don't forget about Prong. So Prong, BLS, and Armored Saint. Absolutely, great show. Yeah, absolutely.
Tommy Victor, who's still left in Prong?
Well, he's the guy. He's the only original guy. I mean, he's always been the main songwriter. You know, and it's always been obviously Prong because it's a 3-piece. You know, and you know he's obviously. I mean, Art Cruz was the drummer for the last 10 years, who's now in Lamb of God. Really? So there's always, I mean,
I don't keep up with this shit. I'm sorry.
It's too new for you, Bob.
I guess so.
It's past 1989, so.
Well, you know, that's why I got you here.
That's what I'm here for, right? Exactly. Yeah.
Well, good. All right, man. I got nothing else to report, man.
This is fun. Yeah.
And I will keep everyone posted on what's going on with the new documentary and everything else. And if we do some new episodes or whatever, you'll be hearing about it. And check out the the
aftershocks and the tremors. Obviously, like I said, we're gonna definitely get you on some of those. You know, when you're available. You know what I mean? We got to keep you in the loop. We can't just have you disappear.
Dude, I got a busy schedule.
Yeah, listen, you could take a half hour, an hour.
I don't know, man. I don't know if it's.
You're not that busy. Come on now.
Maybe if you're lucky enough.
Oh, are you too cool now to be on? Is that what it is? You see? Mr. Cleopatra over
Hollywood
here.
now,
Yeah,
dude.
exactly.
Mr. Hollywood. Where's my sunglasses? God damn it.
Here you go. Or mine.
Oh, there you go.
Pick them up.
All right. All right.
All right, man. Anyway, great. All right. So yeah,
We're all good, man. Check out Skull Sessions.
Skull Sessions.
The last
episode. Well, no, hopefully, no, it's not gonna be the last
No,
episode.
we'll do something.
Yeah,
else.
yeah.
But thanks,
All right,
thanks for all your
everybody.
support. We love you. Take care.
Take care.